In 1994, in a small town called Elmridge, 12 children boarded a yellow school bus for what was supposed to be an ordinary spring field trip. They were never seen again. No crash, no wreckage, no bodies. For over 3 decades, Elmridge kept its silence, until last week when a buried school bus was found under the foundation of an abandoned church. It was empty, preserved. And on its cracked window, someone had scrawled 3 words: "We never got off." What if they never left? What if they were never meant to? Before we uncover how this truth stayed buried for 3 decades, make sure to subscribe. Hit that button now and join me as we dive deep into the mystery they tried to erase. April 1994, Elmridge, Vermont. Early morning fog curled around the bus lot behind the old brick school. The driver's name was Carl Sims. The kids knew him as Mr. Carl, quiet, soft smile, eyes that didn't quite match his ID photo. 12 kids climbed on that day. Jenny Miller, Aiden Brooks, Tommy Chen, just names on a faded list now. The bus pulled away at 7:41 a.m., turned off the main road by 8:05 and disappeared from every map. No radio call, no tire marks, just a final GPS ping, mile 42, Deer Hollow Trail. Then nothing. Now, 3 decades later, Sheriff Nora Lane, who was once Jenny's best friend, stares at the unearthed bus in the flickering flashlight beams. Empty seats, moldy lunchboxes, a child's drawing stuck to the back window half-rotted by time. On the dash, an old tape recorder sits, labeled "Play Me." Nora breathes in the cold, stale air and asks herself, did they ever really get off? Or did something make sure they couldn't? This isn't just an unsolved mystery, this is a warning. Stay with me. We're just getting started. Nora's flashlight beam catches on the old recorder, dusty, cracked, but somehow intact. She reaches for it, her gloved fingers trembling as she presses the brittle play button. A hiss of static fills the hollow bus. Then a child's voice, small, frightened, whispering over the years. If you find this, don't come looking for us, we're still here. Underneath. Nora's breath clouds in the cold. She glances at the investigator beside her. Deputy Harris, young, new to Elmridge, eyes wide as he stares at the recorder like it might bite. "Sheriff," Harris murmurs, voice low. "What does it mean?" "Underneath what?" Nora doesn't answer, because deep down she knows. She's known ever since she was 12 and Jenny Miller didn't come home that night. Since she sat on her porch and stared at the empty street waiting for headlights that never came. She shuts off the recorder, tucks it into an evidence bag. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the hollow shell of the church above. This was never an accident. The bus didn't crash. It was hidden. Someone hid it, and if the bus was buried under concrete for 30 years, what else did they bury? Back at the station, Nora spreads faded case files across her desk. Old Polaroids, hand-drawn maps, typed statements from parents who moved away long ago. She flips to a page that still haunts her. The final bus roster. 12 names, 1 signature at the bottom, Carl Sims. Except Carl Sims wasn't Carl Sims. The background check had always been thin, just a P.O. box, no next of kin. And when the bus vanished, so did he. 1 man, 12 kids gone. But if he disappeared, who buried the bus? Harris leans over her shoulder, pointing at an address scrawled in the margin. Hollow Pines Storage Lot, box number 19. It was the only lead they never followed up on, dismissed when funding dried up. Nora grabs her keys. The recorder's voice still echoes in her mind. We're still here. Underneath. Cliffhanger to continue. She flicks off the desk lamp, looks back at the dusty caseboard lined with red string and missing faces. If that box is still there, maybe the truth didn't die in 1994. Maybe it's been waiting. The wind howls through the cracked windows of Nora's cruiser as she pulls up to Hollow Pines storage. The lot is abandoned, chain-link fence half-collapsed under years of rust and weeds. She steps out, boots crunching on frozen gravel, flashlight beam sweeping across faded unit numbers. Box number 19. She finds it at the far end, rusted lock still dangling from the latch like a forgotten secret. She hesitates, breath misting in the cold night air. Harris stands behind her. "You really think something's been sitting in there for 30 years?" he asks. Nora doesn't answer. She jams the bolt cutters through the lock. One sharp snap. The door rattles open. Inside, darkness, dust, and something else, a shape, half buried under a rotting tarp. She pulls it free. An old school bus seat, torn from its frame, stains across the foam, small scratches on the metal base, letters carved in tiny, desperate lines. "We wait underneath." Harris lifts something from the floor, an envelope yellowed, sealed with brittle tape. Inside, a single Polaroid, 12 kids lined up in the forest, a clearing Nora knows too well, each child holding a sign with a number, no smiles, eyes hollow. In the corner, blurred but clear enough, a man standing behind them, tall, wide shoulders, wearing a hat pulled low. Not Carl Sims, someone else. Nora feels her throat tighten. She turns the photo over, 3 words scratched in faded ink. "The keeper remains." Harris shivers. "Sheriff, who's the keeper?" Nora whispers, voice raw. "The reason we never found them. He didn't take them away. He kept them here." She steps back into the freezing night. Somewhere in the woods beyond the fence, the wind carries a sound like distant whispers echoing beneath the ground. They never left Elmridge. They're still here. Somewhere. Underneath. Nora stands frozen at the storage unit's threshold, the Polaroid clutched in her gloved hand. Harris watches her, breath puffing in nervous clouds. "Sheriff, what do we do with this?" he asks, nodding at the photo. She doesn't answer. Instead, she flips through the storage crate with trembling fingers. Old papers, rusted metal lunchboxes, a cassette recorder, cheap plastic, cracked but intact. She holds it up. There's a tape still inside, the label faded and almost unreadable. Hollow Loop 1987. She slides it into her coat pocket. "We take it to the station," she says finally. Harris swallows. "And if there's more, then we find it." Her eyes flick back toward the tree line beyond the fence. "All of it." They lock the unit back up, but the weight of what they've found follows them to the cruiser. Back at the Elmridge Sheriff's office, Nora sits alone in the evidence room. The tape recorder clicks as she rewinds the cassette. The hum of the old machine fills the silence. She presses play. Static at first, then a child's voice, small, cracking like dry leaves. "It's cold. I don't like the dark room. Mr. Keeper says if we're quiet we can go home. But we don't go home. We wait underneath. We wait till the bus comes back." Nora's hand tightens around her mug. Her coffee's gone cold. She scribbles notes on a yellow pad. Who recorded this? Where was it hidden? The keeper remains. The tape crackles again. This time a different voice, older, a woman's, stern, clinical. Subject batch 12 reports increased compliance after isolation. Whisper tests continue at full cycle. The tunnels remain sealed until reclassification is approved. End log. Nora stops the tape. Her reflection in the dusty glass cabinet looks older than she feels. Eyes red, hair pulled back too tight. She flips open the old county map. Her finger traces the woods behind Bear Hollow. She circles a spot she's circled 100 times before. The old quarry tunnels. They didn't take them away, she murmurs to herself. They buried them alive. She shuts off the light, but the recorder's static hum lingers in the dark. Outside her window, the wind howls. Somewhere in that wind, like a trick of the ear, she swears she hears it, a child's voice, whispering, waiting. Nora steps deeper into the chamber. Her boots sink into the damp earth floor. Each step feels like it echoes louder than her breath. The air tastes stale, heavy with the ghost of old fires and the sharp bite of mildew. She sweeps her flashlight across the bunks again. Tattered blankets, rusted tin cups, and under one bunk, a stack of small notebooks bound with string. She kneels, fingers brushing the cover of the top one. It's damp, but the pages inside are intact. Childish handwriting, some letters reversed, sentences looping off the lines like the writer was too frantic to stay neat. She reads aloud, voice trembling. Voice. They said we'd see the lake, but we never saw the lake. They said the bus would take us back, but the bus went under. They said don't tell, but we tell anyway. She flips to the next page. More of the same. Names, scribbled symbols, a crude map with lines leading in circles. And one phrase repeated so many times it bleeds through the paper. We never left. Nora's breath fogs the paper. She looks around the chamber again, her light falling on the far wall. A door, metal, different from the rotten wood behind her. This one looks newer, heavy, built to keep something in, or out. She rises, crosses the room, tries the handle. It's stuck, years of rust fighting her every move. She plants her shoulder, pushes harder. The door groans like an old beast waking from sleep and swings open. Beyond it, another tunnel, narrower. The walls are lined with old insulation peeling like skin. There are scratch marks here too, deeper, angrier, desperate. And every few feet a number painted in red, 12, 13, 14. She counts the numbers until they stop at 27. At the end of the tunnel sits something she can't quite believe. An old school bus door propped against the rock, its paint scraped raw. A child's backpack hangs from the door handle, faded pink with a cartoon dolphin patch half torn off. Nora drops to her knees, opening the bag with shaking hands. Inside, small bones wrapped in a piece of yellowed cloth, and tucked next to them, a cassette tape, just like the one in her cruiser. She fumbles for her recorder, pops the tape in, presses play. Static. Then a whisper, this time clearer than before. Sheriff Whitaker? If you found this, then maybe you remember. Maybe you were meant to come too. Nora's pulse slams in her ears. We were waiting. We were always waiting. Underneath the bus. Underneath the lake. We never left. A rustle behind her. Nora spins, flashlight sweeping the tunnel. A figure stands there. Small. Barefoot. Hair hanging over their face. A child. The child lifts their head, eyes wide and dark. Lips cracked open just enough to whisper, "It's not just us anymore, it's you too." Nora's breath catches in her throat. She tries to speak, but no sound comes out. The tunnel trembles. Somewhere deeper, a low hum begins, like machinery waking up after decades asleep. Nora grips the recorder, her voice finally a broken rasp. Who else is down here? The child smiles, sad, knowing. All of us, and the bus. The hum grows louder. Nora backs away, heart pounding so hard she can feel it in her teeth. Behind the child, the darkness shifts, like something bigger is moving, breathing, watching. Nora knows she should run, but her feet won't move. Nora's flashlight flickers. The beam dances across wet stone, catching glimpses of old shoe prints, fingerprints smudged into the grime like ghosts pressing to get out. She steps back until her shoulder hits the cold tunnel wall. The child, if it is a child, tilts its head, that sad ancient smile still stretching thin lips that look too dry to speak. You hear it too now, the child whispers. It called us first. Now it calls you. Nora grips her radio, clicks it on, static, then her own cracked voice. Dispatch, this is Sheriff Whitaker. I'm underground. Coordinates transmitting. Possible survivors, possible remains. I need extraction. Now. But only static answers her back. The hum behind the child deepens, like gears grinding beneath bedrock. The child turns its head toward the bus door, still propped open like a rotten jaw. You want to see what's inside? The child asks, voice so calm it freezes Nora's lungs. She forces her legs to move, one step closer, boots scraping over damp stone and scattered bones. Her flashlight catches a metal tag nailed to the tunnel wall. BHP 27 sub-access. The same code from the reports, the same numbers whispered in old case files she'd thought were just bad dreams. The child steps aside, pointing a pale finger toward the darkness beyond the bus door. They kept the bus here because it never really left, the child says, echoing the tape. It's waiting, like we waited. Underneath. Nora swallows, raises her light. Inside the hollow behind the bus door is an opening carved by hand, dirt packed tight, old wooden braces slick with rot. There's a smell here now, not just mildew but something sweet, spoiled, like flowers left too long in water. She hears it, the faintest creak, and realizes she's hearing metal hinges. Another door, deeper still. She kneels, shining the beam inside. Scrawled on the dirt wall in a child's jagged hand is a single word. Remember. Nora's mind reels back. The roster, the class photo, the kids who never came home. Her name scribbled next to them because she should have been there too. The fever, the chicken pox that kept her home. Was that luck? Or something else? Behind her, the child whispers, "It's your turn to ride now, Sheriff." The hum deepens. The ground vibrates. Dust sifts from the tunnel ceiling. Nora reaches into the opening, her hand brushing something cold and hard. Another cassette, and underneath it, soft fabric. A jacket child-sized, the school's old logo half-shredded. She pulls back, heart hammering so loud she swears it's echoing off the stone. "Why me?" she rasps, not sure if she's asking the child or the dark itself. The child answers anyway, voice barely a breath. "Because you never left either." The hum turns into a roar, metal grinding on metal like the whole chamber is shifting awake. The tunnel lights up in bursts, old bulbs flickering to life along the walls one by one. Nora turns. The child is gone. She's alone. Or maybe she never was. She clutches the cassette, the only proof left in this nightmare labyrinth. Behind her, the bus door creaks wider. Inside, something moves, a shape too big, too wrong to belong in this buried place. Nora takes one step back, then another. Nora steadies her breath, but it won't steady. The cassette in her palm feels heavier than her flashlight, heavier than her badge. The roar inside the chamber rises and falls like a giant sleeping under the concrete. She points the beam back at the bus door. That shifting shape. It's gone now. But in its place, a faint trail of wet footprints leading through the hollow deeper into the carved passage behind the bus. Underneath, she whispers to herself, repeating the word like a key. They never left. They were kept. She crouches, pushes through the narrow break, shoulders scraping earth, the smell of mold thick in her mouth. She crawls on hands and knees until the tunnel widens again, opening into a small, circular room lined with rusted lockers. Old camp lockers, mismatched numbers spray-painted on bent doors. BHP 27-12, BHP 27-13, BHP 27-14. Nora's flashlight catches something white on the far side, a wall of Polaroids taped edge to edge. Children's faces blurred by time, some smiling, some blank-eyed. She lifts one, careful not to tear it, a boy wearing a Holstead Ridge Elementary t-shirt, a paper sign taped to his chest. Witness, in red marker. The next photo, A girl, arms crossed tight, hair tied back with a ribbon that looks exactly like Nora's from her own school photo. A chill runs through her spine. That ribbon had been a gift from her mother the day she stayed home sick. Why is it here? She flips the photo over. Faded ink. Should have been number 16. Nora reels back. The flashlight beam bounces wildly off the concrete. A whisper crawls through the lockers, like a sigh through dry leaves. She spins, light catching movement. A locker door hanging ajar, gently swinging. The number on it scratched out and rewritten in black marker. Remember. She steps closer. Inside the locker, a child's backpack, bright yellow, crusted with dirt and mold. Holstead Ridge Elementary, her class year. She flips the flap. Inside, a spiral notebook, water-damaged but legible. She reads, May 21st. They say we're underground so the air stays clean. They say the bus never stops because the bus is the door. They say if we forget, we get to go home. But if we remember, the page tears where water's eaten the ink. Behind her, a click, metal hinges. The roar shifts again, deeper now, pulsing through the floor. She turns and sees it, a trapdoor set into the concrete under the Polaroids. A tiny lock, snapped. Someone came this way recently. The air rising from the crack is warm, wet, like an animal's breath. And from below, a child's voice echoing up the shaft. Not the one she met, another, higher, clearer, almost singing. Nora, Nora, Nora. The same name, over and over. She drops to her knees, shines the beam down the dark shaft. The voice goes silent. Only her own breath comes back. She pulls the notebook tighter to her chest. Proof she can't lose. The cassette, the photos, and now this. She has to choose. Stay and wait for rescue, or follow the trapdoor. Deeper, to where they were kept, or where they still are. Nora closes her eyes, breathes the damp air, and whispers to herself, They never left. And maybe, neither did I. Nora forces the rusted trapdoor fully open. Metal groans against metal, echoing up the shaft like a warning bell no one will hear. She slides her legs into the hole first, boots skimming cold concrete, then lowers herself onto the iron rungs bolted into the tunnel wall. The air is thicker here, warm in a way that shouldn't be possible this deep under stone. She can still hear it, the faint lilting voice, like a child humming through water. The echoes bounce strangely so she can't tell how far below the sound truly is. Her fingers brush the wall as she descends. Old paint flakes away, revealing words carved underneath. Below is still here. She whispers it to herself, testing the truth of it. Below is still here. And so are they. When her boots hit the bottom, she finds herself in a narrow corridor, walls lined with faded murals. Stick figures, trees, a bus painted over and over in looping brush strokes. Some figures have faces scratched out, replaced with black X's. Some hold signs like the photos above. One word repeats, scrawled in red and smeared by damp. Remember. Her flashlight beam flickers. For a moment she sees footprints in the dust, small, barefoot. A drip echoes behind her. Then another voice, a new one, older, lower. A man's, calm, rehearsed. If you're down here, you know what you're looking for. Nora spins. The beam lands on an old intercom speaker mounted to the ceiling, half rusted through but crackling to life with that voice. Sheriff Whitaker, you could have left this alone, you could have forgotten. Like the others. She squares her shoulders, breath steady now, voice cold. Who are you? A dry laugh over the speaker. I'm the last door you'll open. The corridor buzzes, a low hum through the concrete. She follows the footprints forward, deeper. Another sign. Sanctuary. The word is crossed out. Beneath it, someone has written by hand. ARC. She reaches the end of the hallway, a steel door, half buried behind a collapsed shelf of old medical files. She shoves the debris aside, shoulder straining, heart pounding. Her light catches one last carved message beside the door handle. J.D. came back. J.D., Janie Delcourt, the first name she ever learned to write beside her own. She breathes out, whispers, "It's always been you." With her free hand, she pushes the door open. Stale air hits her face, warm, sour, full of mold and rust and old paper. The room beyond is massive, a circular chamber carved into raw earth, cables hanging loose from the ceiling. And at the center, a single rusted bus seat bolted to the concrete floor, a child-sized seat. On it, a stuffed rabbit, fur matted with mildew, one ear missing. Nora steps closer. Her boot nudges something, a recorder. She crouches, picks it up, hits play. A tiny voice, trembling but clear. "If you find this, don't leave me here again. We're under the road. We're under everything. Please, we never stopped riding. We never stopped." The voice fades. A click. Silence. Nora sinks to her knees beside the empty seat, the recorder still warm in her palm. Around her, the hum rises, like an engine idling in the dark, waiting for the next passengers. She looks at the walls, a final message painted in broad, frantic strokes. "Still driving." And she whispers to the dark, "So am I." Nora forces herself to stand even as her knees threaten to buckle beneath her. The recorder is still clutched in her hand, the proof the world above will never want to hear. Her flashlight sweeps across the room again, the cables dangling like veins cut from a dead thing. And behind the bus seat, a hatch in the floor, smaller than the trapdoor above. Sealed with a rusted latch, but not locked. She kneels, pries it open. The smell hits her first. Cold earth, stale air, something chemical. A ladder drops into pure black. From this depth, there's no hum, only silence so thick it claws at her ears. She lowers her light, sees old wooden beams shoring up a cramped tunnel, dirt pressed in tight like a throat about to close. One more message scratched into the edge of the hatch. "We never got off." She hesitates. For the first time since the forest, doubt creeps up her spine. What if they're right? What if this story wants her too? She lowers herself anyway. The ladder shudders under her weight. Below, the beam catches more footprints. Smaller, barefoot, some recent. A child's giggle echoes. Or does it? Her breath clouds the air. The tunnel is colder than the chamber above, too cold for summer soil. She slides off the ladder, boots sinking half an inch in the damp clay. Ahead, the tunnel splits. One fork curves left, toward an old steel door half buried by roots. The other dips right, a raw shaft drilled downward, faintly braced with splintering planks. Her light flickers, battery near dead. She whispers to herself, "One more mile, Whitaker. One more mile." She picks the left fork, the door. The closer she gets, the clearer the sound becomes, a faint hum, like an old bus engine idling behind a wall. Beneath it, voices, children's voices, soft, looping, chanting. One word over and over, home. Nora lays a hand on the door. The metal is warm. She pushes. It scrapes open half an inch, then sticks. She pushes harder. The hinges squeal like an animal. Inside, a small chamber lined with rusted beds bolted to the dirt floor. Half-buried filing cabinets overflow with mold-eaten folders. On the far wall, an old bus stop sign nailed crookedly into the dirt. "Wait here." A shape moves behind it, small, pale. She raises her light and sees the eyes first, wide, familiar. A girl, no older than 10, dressed in a faded yellow field trip t-shirt, knees drawn to her chest. She blinks once, twice, like she's waking up from a dream that never ended. Nora whispers, "What's your name?" The girl's lips part, dry, cracked, but the voice is strong, the same voice from the tape. Janie. The flashlight flickers out. Total darkness. In that black, Nora feels a small, cold hand slip into hers. And Janie's whisper, "We're still riding. Don't let them close the door again." The pitch black hums like an engine buried alive. Nora grips Janie's tiny hand, feeling every tremor. Her other hand fumbles for her backup light, a pen torch clipped to her belt. She flicks it on. A needle of white cuts through the dark. Janie doesn't flinch from the beam. She only stares down the far end of the chamber where a second door sits ajar. Rust flakes drifting to the ground like ash. Beside it, a sign. Transfer station. BHP sub. Nora kneels, meeting Janie's eyes. "How long have you been here?" Janie's lips twitch into something that might be a smile or maybe just a memory of one. "Since the bus stopped." "And the others?" Nora asks. Janie's eyes flick toward the door. "Some went deeper. Some didn't want to wake up. But we never left. They said if we did, the ride would start over." Nora shivers. "We're leaving now, okay? I'm taking you out." But Janie shakes her head. "You have to find the driver." Nora's breath hitches. "Alan Baird? He's dead, Janie. They said he vanished." "No," Janie interrupts, voice soft but sharp. "He's the road now. He's the bus. He's waiting under the wheels." A distant echo, metal striking metal, rolls up the tunnel behind them. Janie squeezes Nora's hand tighter. "If you hear the horn, don't run. Get on." Nora tries to steady her voice. "I'm not leaving you here." But Janie only turns and steps toward the transfer door. The penlight's beam dances across her back. The faded logo on her t-shirt, a cartoon pine tree with Bear Hollow Preserve stitched beneath. The sound comes again, a low groan like brakes releasing after decades. Nora follows. She pushes the transfer door open wider. Beyond it, a concrete corridor lined with old bus seats torn from their frames and bolted to the walls like church pews. At the far end, a shape hulks in the shadows, unmistakable, impossible. The bus. Its yellow paint is flayed by rust, windows blacked out from the inside. The headlights flicker to life, not electric but something else pulsing behind frosted glass. And from within, faint laughter looping like a broken tape. Janie stops at the first row of seats nailed to the wall. She turns to Nora. "You have to sit or it won't move." "I'm not playing this game," Nora whispers. "You don't play. You remember." Janie climbs onto a seat, curls her knees up like she's done it 1,000 times. "Close your eyes when it starts. If you open them, you can't get off." Nora feels every part of her training, every rational bone, splintering. But she sits beside Janie anyway. The bus's horn moans once, distant yet deafening in this concrete grave. Nora closes her eyes, and in that dark she feels it, wheels beneath her rolling on no road. A child's voice beside her, not Janie's, but many layered like echoes trapped in a loop. "We never made it to Bear Hollow. We're still riding. Don't wake up." Nora's eyelids flicker. She fights the instinct to look, to ground herself in something real, concrete, rust, stale air. But the bus moves, though she knows it shouldn't. The floor vibrates under her boots, rattling her teeth. Beside her, Janie hums. A broken nursery rhyme. "The wheels on the bus," she whispers, but the words don't match the melody. Nora tightens her grip on the seat's cracked vinyl. Her mind claws for an exit, a switch to flip this hallucination off. But the air shifts. The stale damp is gone, replaced by the unmistakable scent of pine and old diesel. A cold breeze whispers across her knuckles. She risks it. Her eyes crack open. They're moving, truly moving. The chamber walls are gone, replaced by rows of tall pines blurring past outside windows that shouldn't show daylight. The bus's interior flickers between corroded ruin and pristine yellow vinyl like a slide projector stuck between frames. And every seat is filled. Children. Some she remembers from the files. Caleb, Kimmy, Sam. They sit frozen, staring straight ahead, their eyes milky and unfocused. Their lips move but make no sound, as if they're humming along with Janie's broken song. At the front of the bus, the driver's silhouette looms. Tall, stiff, wearing a plain black windbreaker. Alan Baird, or what's left of him. His head tilts once like he feels Nora's stare burning into the back of his skull. The rearview mirror tilts down, but instead of reflecting his face, it shows Nora's. Her eyes sunken, pupils wide like the others. She jerks back, blinking hard, but the image remains. Janie's voice slices through the hum. Close them. If you see the road, you stay on it. Nora snaps her eyes shut again, heart pounding so loud she thinks it'll drown out the bus's low mechanical growl. A hiss of brakes. The bus slows. The air shifts cold and damp once more. Concrete walls return behind her eyelids. Open them, Janie whispers. Nora does. They're back. The tunnel, the rusted seats, the corpse of the bus still anchored at the far end. The children are gone. So is Baird. Janie slips from her seat, bare feet hitting the concrete. You saw it? Nora nods, throat raw. What was that? Janie's eyes glitter in the penlight's trembling beam. The ride. They made it for us, to keep us looping, so we wouldn't remember the end. And the others? Nora asks, voice cracking. Where are they now? Janie steps closer, presses her cracked bracelet, the one Nora found near the hatch, into her palm. Still on board, unless you wake them up. A noise ripples through the tunnel behind them, voices, boots crunching gravel. Rescue team? Or something worse? Janie's tiny hand finds Nora's wrist. Don't tell them everything, she says softly. If you do, the bus will need to ride again. Nora kills her flashlight. Darkness presses close, but she can hear the footsteps echo clearer now, heavy, methodical. Not the frantic rush of rescuers, not the low chatter of local cops. Too controlled. Janie squeezes her wrist tighter. Her whisper is like wind brushing dry leaves. They always come back. They don't like unfinished stories. Nora's pulse spikes. She pulls Janie behind an old breaker box jutting from the concrete wall. From here, she sees shapes spilling into the chamber. 4, maybe 5 figures, all in dark clothes, moving in a practiced wedge. Their headlamps sweep the floor, flashing across the rusted bus. Is it secure? A voice asks, male, clipped, used to giving orders. Another answers. Visual only, no active pings yet. We'll sweep the sub-rooms next. Nora feels Janie's nails bite her skin. They're not rescuers, are they? Nora shakes her head. Her mind races, the files, the erased records, the sealed tunnels. Whoever these men are, they didn't come to pull survivors out. They came to contain whatever might still whisper in the dark. One of the men steps onto the bus's cracked steps, pokes his head inside, then radios back. Visual confirmation of interior match. Site integrity holds. Recommend reseal after extraction. Extraction. The word coils around Nora's ribs like wire. Behind her, Janie breathes. You can't let them lock it again. If they do... A sudden clatter. Nora's foot grazed a scrap of metal. The echo bounces down the tunnel like a gunshot. The headlamps snap toward them. A beam hits Nora's shoulder, burns through the dark. Contact! East wall, move! Janie bolts first. Small, fast, almost weightless as she slips deeper into the shadows. Nora lunges after her, boots hammering old concrete. Behind them, boots pound, voices bark orders, radios crackle. They race through the sub-hallways, past rusted bunk doors, flickering hazard lights. Nora's lungs tear for air. Ahead, Janie flings open a maintenance hatch barely wide enough for a child. She twists back, eyes wide. We have to break the loop, or they'll keep driving. Nora shoves her through, then crawls after, metal ribs scraping her shoulders. Shouts fade behind them, but not far enough. Somewhere above, the tunnel splits. Moonlight drips through a rusted vent cover. Janie jams her shoulders against it, and Nora throws her weight too. Metal shrieks. Bolts give. They tumble up into the woods, cold night air slapping sweat and fear off their skin. Pines sway above them, indifferent sentinels. Nora drags Janie to her feet. Where now? Janie just breathes, eyes bright with something that's not quite hope. We stay awake. We tell it, so they can't ride it again. Somewhere behind them, the tunnel hums, low, hungry, like an engine idling in the dark. They stumble through the pine forest, branches clawing at their arms, breath turning to mist in the raw night air. Somewhere back in the trees, the hum fades, or maybe it follows, muffled under the hush of needles and wind. Nora clutches Janie's hand tighter. She can feel the girl trembling, not from cold, but something deeper. The kind of tremor that comes from carrying a secret too long. Where are we going? Nora asks, voice low but fierce. Janie doesn't look back. Somewhere it can't hear us, somewhere new, that's how you break the loop. A branch snaps behind them, they both freeze. Silence swells, and then another snap, closer. Nora's mind spins through options: fight, run, hide. None feel right. Janie turns slowly. Her eyes search the dark the way a child listens for a bedtime lie. It knows we're gone. A shape shifts between the trunks. A silhouette, tall, deliberate, not one of the men from the chamber. This one stands too still, too patient. Nora whispers, "Who is that?" Janie's voice cracks. Driver. Nora remembers the name from the tapes, the files. Alan Baird. The handler. The ghost who drove them nowhere for so long. But this shape isn't him. At least not anymore. The figure raises an arm, not to wave, not to threaten, but to point. Past them, deeper into the forest, where the pines grow older and the ground sinks soft under moss. Janie grips Nora's sleeve. It wants us to finish it or start it again. Nora steps sideways, putting herself between Janie and the figure. We don't run the road anymore, we ride it. A breeze kicks through the trees. When Nora looks back, the figure is gone, like a driver melting into fog. They push on, leaves crackling underfoot. Far ahead, a shape glows faint through the trees. An old ranger's cabin, its porch light flickering like a last heartbeat. Janie whispers, "That's where they waited." The first time, Nora feels the chill crawl up her spine. Then maybe it's where it ends. They reach the cabin. The door hangs crooked, its hinges rusted by decades of neglect. Inside, the air tastes of dust and long-dead pine. An old map tacks to the wall. Roots and circles scribbled in a child's looping hand. Janie crosses to it, tracing the lines. They thought the bus kept us safe. It didn't. It just kept us there. Nora flips through the drawers. In one, a stack of Polaroids. Kids at a lake, kids on a bus, kids asleep against fogged windows, each marked with a name, a number, a date that shouldn't exist. A final Polaroid slips free. Janie, maybe 8 years old, standing beside the bus door. Her smile is wide, but her eyes are tired. Nora turns to Janie now, older, trembling, more alive than that frozen paper version. You're not cargo anymore. You're witness. You end it. Janie lifts a marker from the dusty table and scrawls across the old map. Not roots, but words. No return. Outside, the hum deep underground sputters like a dying engine. For the first time, the forest feels still. Nora asks her quietly, "Does it stop now?" Janie presses her palm to the map. If someone keeps telling it. Nora kneels by the warped floorboards. A hatch, half-rotted and nailed shut decades ago, waits under the dust. She runs her fingers along the edges. Splinters bite into her skin, but she doesn't flinch. Janie stands behind her, arms wrapped tight around herself like she's holding in the cold or the memories, maybe both. It goes deeper than the bus, she murmurs. It always did. Nora wedges the old pry bar she found in the cabin's corner under the hatch's seam. Wood groans, then snaps. A waft of stale air curls out. Old earth rust, something else that clings to the back of her throat like a bad dream. She lifts the hatch. Steps descend into the dark. Concrete, cracked, wet with slow drips that echo like a second heartbeat. Stay here, Nora says, but Janie shakes her head. Not this time. I see it through. Together they step down. Their footsteps bounce off walls that feel too close, too damp. The deeper they go, the louder the hum returns, no longer beneath them but around them, behind the walls. Nora sweeps her flashlight in a slow arc. The corridor is lined with doors, metal, numbered. Some are dented in as if someone had pounded from the inside. They pass room 2. Inside, tiny bunk beds bolted to concrete. Room 5, walls covered floor to ceiling with scratch marks, some spelling broken words. Listen, remember underneath. At the end of the hall, a final door waits, bigger than the rest. Heavy bolts, a rusted latch. Spray painted across it, someone's desperate mark. Don't open. Janie's breath catches. This is where they made it hum, where they made us hum back. Nora wipes her palms on her jeans, feels the weight of every buried file, every ghosted name. Maybe they left something, proof, or... She doesn't finish. The look on Janie's face is enough. She knows. They both know. Nora unbolts the latch. Metal squeals. The door inches open. Inside, a circular room, walls lined with broken monitors and coiled cables. In the center, a chair, child-sized. Straps dangle loose, some still stained dark. Against the far wall, a panel flickers, ancient but somehow still alive. Green diodes pulse like a heartbeat that forgot how to stop. On a shelf beneath it, a row of old cassette tapes, each labeled by hand. BHP sub JD, BHP sub MR, BHP sub UK13. Janie steps forward, fingers trembling as she lifts the tape with her initials. They recorded us. Nora gently takes it. Then we play it for everyone. A new hum rises, not from the walls but from the panel. The lights brighten, a speaker crackles, and a voice, tiny, distant, layered with static, breaks the thick silence. We never got off the bus. It repeats. The hum grows louder. Nora and Janie lock eyes. They know this isn't just a room. It's a loop waiting for new passengers. Nora's hand hovers over the ancient tape deck built into the wall, its buttons yellowed, cracked by time. Janie stands close enough to feel the static hum bleeding through the metal, vibrating in her teeth. We don't know what's on it, Janie whispers. We know enough, Nora says. Her voice is steady, but her thumb trembles as it presses play. A hiss of old tape. Then, a child's voice, unmistakably Janie's, younger by decades, raw with confusion and fear. They said it's just a test ride, but the bus doesn't stop. Not really. We sleep and we wake up and the windows show trees, but the trees don't move. We hear the hum and then we're somewhere else. They write our names down. Sometimes they change them. They say if we forget fast enough, we can go home. The voice falters, replaced by a low mechanical tone. Not a hum, but a droning code, a pattern that crawls under Nora's skin like insects. She slams, "Stop." The silence that follows is worse, thick, suffocating, hungry. Janie wipes her eyes. They kept us underground while they told our families we were lost in the woods. They never searched here, they never would. Nora picks up another tape, UNK13. No name. She pops it in. A boy's voice, broken, whispering, "If you hear this, you're not supposed to." I tried to count the days, but they made us sleep too much. They made us sing when the hum got loud. They said if I told, I'd forget too, but I didn't. I didn't. The voice cuts out. Another low pulse. Nora ejects the tape. She shoves them both into her bag. We get these out. We play them for everyone. The truth goes with us this time. But the hum answers her, louder now, vibrating through concrete and bone. The panel on the wall flickers to life. A line of text scrolls in pale green letters. We never left a door they hadn't noticed slides open behind them. Slow, screeching. A draft rushes through, carrying the cold stink of deeper tunnels. Janie's eyes dart to Nora's. Do we run? Nora checks the flashlight, dying. She grips the tapes tighter. We run, but we finish this. They back toward the new passage, the hum now a roar in the dark. Shadows twitch inside the walls like echoes that learned how to move. Nora turns to the camera hidden in the corner, the one they're sure is still recording. She raises her voice. If anyone finds this, don't stop digging. They buried us. Don't let them do it again. They step into the black. The new passage slopes downward, swallowing Nora and Janie in cold that bites deeper with every step. The walls pulse with a dull red glow, old emergency lights flickering like dying embers. Janie clutches Nora's sleeve. What if this loops again? What if we're just walking back to the bus? Nora shakes her head, jaw set. Then we break the loop. We make them hear us this time. Ahead, the corridor splits. Left, a rusted steel door with faded hazard symbols. Right, a wider tunnel, rails embedded in the floor, broken carts frozen mid-track like skeletons. Rails, Janie whispers. The depot. That's where the signal reappeared, remember? Nora nods. And if the bus was moved, they used these tracks. They choose the right tunnel. Each step echoes like footsteps behind them, but when they turn, nothing moves. Only the hum, always the hum. Rust flakes off the metal walls as they pass. The ceiling drips. Pipes overhead groan, breathing in ways pipes shouldn't breathe. They reach the depot chamber, massive, circular. A rusted rail car sits on cracked tracks. Its doors stand open. Inside, benches, faded blankets, a chain bolted to the floor. Janie steps in first. They called this the transfer station. A child's voice, not theirs, whispers from somewhere in the shadows. We stayed quiet. We stayed good. We waited. Nora's flashlight sweeps the dark. Nothing. Just old stains on concrete and the ghost of their own breath. She finds a control panel half buried in dust. Flicks switches. A bulb overhead flickers, revealing a crude map on the wall. BHP, sub-access. Primary chamber. Loop secondary exits. Redacted. Janie traces her finger along the faded lines. The bus never left. They just circled us until we forgot we were still here. Nora pulls the tapes from her bag, snapping photos with her phone. Not this time. We remember, and we show them. Suddenly, a metallic clang. The railcar's outer door swings shut, slamming the chamber in thick iron silence. A voice echoes through an old intercom. Calm, female, too calm. Return to your seats. The ride continues. Janie's eyes widen. That's her, Rutherford. She's still in here. Nora grips her hand. Then she can hear us. She can watch us walk out. She turns, scanning for another way out. Her flashlight catches an old maintenance hatch half concealed behind stacked crates. She jams her shoulder against it. Metal shrieks, rust flakes rain down, and the hatch gives way. Cold night air hits them like a slap. Above, a shaft, a rickety ladder reaching for the moonlight filtering through rotting boards. Nora shoves the tapes into Janie's hands. Climb! Now! Below them the hum rises, angry now. A low, bone-deep vibration that rattles the rails. Janie scrambles up first, feet slipping on rust. Nora follows, one hand gripping the ladder, the other clutching the phone, still recording every heartbeat. Beneath them, the chamber shakes. Pipes groan like something waking up hungry. They breach the hatch, out into night air, collapsed leaves, broken moonlight. For the first time in decades, they breathe without the hum in their skulls. Janie turns to Nora, tears and cold night and relief. What now? Nora looks at the tapes, at the shadows of the trees around them, as if they're listening too. Now we make sure nobody ever forgets. They stand there for a moment, frozen under the canopy of whispering pines. The cold seeps through their clothes, but neither of them feels it. The hum is gone, but something else hums in their veins now. Fear mixed with raw, stubborn hope. Janie clutches the tapes to her chest. We have to get these to someone. The press, the state, someone real. Nora scans the tree line. The main road should be east. If we follow the creek, we'll hit the old ranger station. There's a radio tower there, if it still works. A branch snaps. Both women spin around. Between the trees, shapes flicker. Too quiet, too deliberate. They can't be out here, Janie whispers, voice shaking. It's been decades. They can't be. Nora pulls her closer. We knew they wouldn't let it end easy. A flashlight beam sweeps past them. Then another. Soft voices garbled through static radios. Not searchers, not rescue, handlers. One voice clearer than the rest. Sweep north. They're on foot. Janie squeezes Nora's arm. How do they still know? Nora doesn't answer. Her eyes lock on the distant outline of the old ranger tower, a black tooth against the cloudy night. We run. Through the creek. They'll lose the trail in the water. Together they bolt for the creek bed, cold water biting ankles through torn shoes. Behind them, boots crash through brush. A shout, another light. They run faster, slipping on slick stones, half falling, catching each other. The tapes clatter against Janie's ribs, the only proof they have that the bus was never just a bus, that Bear Hollow was never just a preserve. At the far bank, the ranger station looms, a ruin of splintered wood and a rusted signal dish tilting at the stars. The tower door hangs crooked on one hinge. They duck inside, gasping. Broken filing cabinets, a moldy cot, a radio base, dusty but intact. Nora drops to her knees, flicks switches, static squeals to life. This is Nora Kelly, if anyone hears me. We escaped Bear Hollow Preserve. They're still here, they're still hunting. We have proof. A shape fills the doorway. Tall, still. A man in a black windbreaker, face hidden by the beam of his own flashlight. He says nothing, but lifts a hand, palm out. And in that silence, the hum returns. Faint, like a memory bleeding back through the walls. Janie backs up, hand fumbling for the radio mic. You can't take it back, not this time. People know. People. The man steps forward, slow, deliberate, boots creaking on rotted floorboards. Nora's eyes dart to the window behind Janie. Shattered glass. A drop, 10 feet, maybe more. Freedom. Or another loop? She whispers, jump. Janie hesitates, just for a breath. Enough for the man to speak, voice low and hollow. Return to your seats. The hum spikes. The radio flickers, lights on the console pulse like a dying heartbeat. But Nora lunges, grabbing Janie's wrist, dragging her toward the window. Glass shatters, cold wind rips through the room as they fall into darkness. A cold breeze slipped through the gaps in the ranger tower's walls as Ethan crouched beside the trap door. His breath came out in ragged puffs. The paper in his pocket felt like it weighed 100 pounds. He reached for the rusted handle. It squeaked, echoing through the stillness. He hesitated, glancing back at the woods, nothing but shadows and the quiet hum of crickets. The trapdoor creaked open to reveal a narrow, crumbling staircase descending into darkness. A smell hit him. Damp earth, old wood, something else, like rust and mold and a hint of something sour. He flicked on his flashlight. The beam trembled as he aimed it down the steps. They looked old, too old to be part of any ranger station. Carefully, he stepped down. Each footfall sent small pebbles tumbling into the black. The walls were earthen, reinforced with rotting timber beams. He counted the steps, 5, 10, 15, until his boots landed on packed dirt. The underground corridor was cramped and oddly warm. On the left wall, faint handprints, small ones, streaked in what looked like old paint or something darker. Ethan swallowed. Further down, a door stood half open. He nudged it with his boot. It swung inward with a groan. Inside was a small room lined with old filing cabinets and metal shelves. Broken jars and moldy boxes were scattered across the floor. But the center of the room caught his eye. A single school desk, child-sized, facing the far wall. Pinned above it was a photograph. Ethan stepped closer. The glass was cracked, but he could see it clearly. 6 kids sitting in the bus seats smiling. Except their eyes looked wrong. Edited, scratched, he couldn't tell. Below the photo, scrawled in faint marker, "They never left." Ethan's pulse hammered in his ears. He pulled the paper from his pocket, the same handwriting. He turned to the shelves, rifling through old boxes. Most were empty, but one contained a pile of cassette tapes, each labeled with dates. 1987, 1988, 1989. He grabbed one at random, March 15th, 1987. He squinted at the label. Observation, Subject 4. His hands shook as he found a battered tape recorder on the shelf. He pressed the cassette inside, hit play, at first static, then a voice, small, trembling. A child. "Are we going home?" Another voice, older, calm, female. "Not yet." "Tell me about the sound again." The child sniffles. "It hums under the bus. It keeps humming, even when we're sleeping." Ethan's skin crawled. He pressed stop. His mind raced. This place, this tape, the missing kids, was the bus still out there? A creak snapped him back. He spun around, flashlight cutting through the dark. Something shifted behind a broken cabinet, a whisper low and hoarse. "Did you hear it too?" Ethan froze, the recorder slipping from his fingers. The whisper came again, closer this time. "You shouldn't be here." He stumbled back, boot hitting the desk. The photo rattled on the wall. He turned, ready to run. But the corridor behind him was no longer empty. A figure stood there, small, barefoot, hair hanging in tangled clumps over their face. The flashlight flickered. The figure lifted a hand and pointed at the floor. Ethan's light followed. There, etched into the dirt, were more names, the same ones from the old reports. The kid's voice rasped, "We never left." "We're still under the road." Ethan's breath caught. He forced out a whisper. "Who did this to you?" The child didn't answer, just stepped backward into the dark. Ethan's light caught the edge of something behind them, a broken school bus seat, half buried in the earth. Before he could move, the light sputtered out, total black. A soft chorus of whispers rose up around him, echoes of laughter, of small voices humming a tune he almost recognized. Then, silence. Ethan's eyes darted in the dark. He felt for the stairs, stumbled up, heart hammering so loud he thought it would give him away. He burst back into the night air, gasping, the cold breeze like a slap to the face. But as he turned to slam the trapdoor shut, he saw it, etched into the underside in the same hand. "Bring them home." Ethan didn't stop running until he reached his truck, breath ragged, palms scraped raw from catching himself on rocks and roots as he scrambled through the dark. He fumbled the keys, dropped them, cursed under his breath, then finally slammed the door shut behind him. Headlights cut through the dense pine, but the beam seemed too thin, like the woods were swallowing it whole. He checked the rearview mirror once, twice, half expecting to see a small, barefoot figure standing at the tree line. Nothing. just the shifting branches and the whisper of the wind. His hands trembled as he shoved the tape recorder onto the passenger seat. He'd left the cassette behind. Damn it! But the recorder still smelled of earth and mildew, proof enough he hadn't imagined it. He grabbed his phone. No signal. Not this deep in the mountains. He needed to get back to town, to anyone. Maybe Sheriff Keene would listen this time. Maybe now, with the names, the voices, someone had to listen. The tires crunched over gravel as he pulled onto the narrow forest road. Every bend in the trees looked like a shadow waiting to step out. His mind replayed the whisper. Bring them home. Halfway down the ridge, the headlights caught something. A rusted sign, half buried by weeds. Old Mill Road. He almost missed it, but something tugged at him. The last time the search teams went looking for the bus, they'd never checked the abandoned sawmill. It had been condemned years before, deemed unsafe, sealed off. Except, no one ever bothered to tear it down. Ethan slowed the truck to a crawl. The forest pressed in tight on both sides, his brights catching glimpses of warped siding, rusted machinery swallowed by moss. He killed the engine, listening. Just the low tick of cooling metal. He remembered the map pinned to the ranger station wall. BHP substation, mill tunnel access. It clicked in his mind like a rusty lock turning open. He grabbed his flashlight and the recorder, stepped out into the hush of the pines. The air here smelled of old sawdust and something else, like wet stone and rust. Past the crumbling fence, the mill loomed, a sagging husk of weathered wood and shattered windows. He slipped through a gap where the boards had rotted away. Inside, his boots crunched over sawdust and broken glass. In the dark, his beam landed on an old office door still hanging by one hinge. Foreman's office, scrawled beneath it in the same hand that had etched the trapdoor. Underneath. He pushed inside, rusted file cabinets, an overturned desk. On the floor, half buried under debris, was a trapdoor, smaller than the one in the tower but marked by the same strange symbol, a circle crossed by 3 lines. He knelt, fingertips brushing the edge. It was cold, colder than the air around him. He braced himself, pried it open. A rush of stale air hit him, heavy with the same rot and iron tang he'd smelled in the hidden room. Below, stone steps, slick with moss. The beam of his flashlight barely reached the bottom. He hesitated, then felt for the recorder in his pocket. He hit record, his own voice shaking. It's Ethan Reed. Mill tunnel. If I don't come back, this is proof. He slipped one foot onto the first step. The dark swallowed him whole. Halfway down, the tunnel walls shifted from wood to crumbling stone. Pipes ran overhead, leaking rust. The tunnel bent left, then right, like the bones of an old serpent curling under the forest. He heard it before he saw it. A low hum, faint at first, then stronger, like an engine idling far below ground. His breath caught. He moved closer. At the end of the tunnel, an iron door, slightly ajar. On it, painted in faded yellow, Bus 17, Containment. He pushed it open. The hum grew louder. Inside, a cavernous room lit by flickering bulbs strung haphazardly overhead. In the middle of the concrete floor sat a bus, its yellow paint dulled to sickly gray, windows blacked out, tires half deflated but intact. Ethan stepped closer, boots echoing off the damp walls. The humming, coming from inside the bus. A low, droning vibration, almost alive. He reached for the handle. The door creaked open, just like the photo in the hidden room. The smell hit him. Wet metal. Mildew. Something sweet. He flicked the flashlight into the aisle. The seats were all in place, and on each one, names scratched into the plastic backs. Familiar names, the same ones. A whisper floated through the stale air, so soft he thought he imagined it. Ethan. He spun. Nothing. But the hum grew louder. The seats seemed to shift in the beam's edge like something was there, half-formed, waiting. His recorder ticked in his hand, catching every heartbeat, every breath. He forced himself to ask, "Where are you? What do you want?" The hum wavered. Then, as if through the static, a voice, small, layered, many voices at once. "Bring us back." Ethan's grip on the recorder tightened so hard his knuckles cracked. The voices blended into a low chorus, children's whispers overlapping, fighting the stale hum that rattled the windows. He stepped deeper into the bus. Each seat seemed colder than the last. The names, Nora, Caleb, Kimmy, Jonah, scratched so deep they'd torn through the vinyl. He ran his thumb over Cassia, the name from the mural, the name from the tape. The hum trembled. He heard a soft thud behind him, spun, flashlight dancing over the back row. There, on the last seat, a shape, small, slumped. His heart slammed against his ribs. He stepped closer. $1, ragged, missing an eye. Around its neck, a plastic bracelet, purple, with a single word carved in shaky block letters. "Wait." He reached for it, then froze. The voices rose like a tide. "Wait. Under. Stay." He stumbled backward, knocking into a seat. The recorder slipped from his hand, skittering down the aisle, came to rest at the bus's front under the driver's seat. The hum grew teeth, an undercurrent of growls and static that made his teeth ache. He lunged for the recorder, snatched it up, and that's when he saw it, taped to the wheel well, half buried under dust and old gum, a photo. He tore it free, held it to the light, a Polaroid, children standing outside this bus, the same bus. But their faces blurred, smudged like water stains. One girl in front, braids, green ribbon. Cassia, scrawled on the bottom, "We never got off." He staggered out of the bus, lungs burning. The hum didn't follow. It waited. Like the thing inside knew he'd be back. Outside, Ethan stood under the flickering bulbs, staring at the tunnel's darkness yawning behind him. He looked at the recorder in his palm, the photo pressed to its side. If he brought this to Sheriff Keene, to the press, would it matter? Would anyone believe what slept beneath the pines? Or would he just vanish too, like the bus, like the kids, like everyone who remembered? He took one last look at the iron door. Containment. But contained what? A voice, Cassia's, echoed faint, almost kind. Not gone. Just waiting. Ethan pocketed the photo, the recorder, turned back up the tunnel steps. Above ground, the wind hissed through the broken mill walls. Somewhere far behind, the hum pulsed like a heartbeat. He climbed into his truck, started the engine. Gravel sprayed as he pulled away, headlights slicing through the trees. This wasn't over. Not yet. Because secrets don't stay buried, and some buses never stop running. And now, do you think they ever really left? Who else is still waiting underneath? Drop your theory below if you're not afraid of what's still listening.